Oh, kia ora. Gosh, there's a few of you online. I'm wearing my glasses, but there is a bit of glare. But that waiata was Eminaka Ana, and I think it was Pania Te Aho, Pania Te Aho, Pania Rahui, who oh, sorry. Gosh, I'm getting all my names confused. Sorry, I've just got back from Australia. Pania Papa, sorry, is the person who wrote that song. So we haven't been long back in the country, and my husband had to go to a meeting today, a tribal meeting, and I've been out campaigning. So we only got a couple of hours sleep. Our plane was delayed from Australia, and we got home what time? About 3:30 this morning. Had to get up early so that my husband could go to a hui. So sorry, Pania, for getting your name mixed up with your brother-in-law's name. Oh my gosh, and your brother's name. Crikey. Anyway, that's what a lack of sleep does, and no time for rest. So, for those of you that don't know, I have just come back from Australia, from Brisbane. Our daughter got married, and I put a post up and just showed some pictures, not of her actual wedding, but some pictures of the cake, the kai. It was a seafood buffet, and my goodness me, out the gate. The cake was stunning. Didn't have a lot of room left for the cake. It was amazing. So my daughter is now Mrs. Cheng, and she has married her darling, who is Samoan Chinese. His grandparents are Chinese, and they have 2 children and just had a pepe only a few months ago, not long after Dad had passed. Actually, days after Dad had passed, did she have our moko, and actually there was another moko born around the same time. So even though it's been really difficult losing Dad, losing our papa, our koro, and our koko, because he's got moko tuarua. Having the new mokopuna come into the world has been a blessing. Having a wedding has been a blessing. Having mum still here has been a blessing. So it was something really positive. And I sort of had to break my campaign up to, whānau first. Whānau first. We have to always put our whānau first. And I try and put my husband first as well. To be honest, this is his 3rd campaign in a row. He's he'd been campaigning with me for many years. And definitely the second campaign that we've done one after the other. So, I have to take my hat off to my darling. And, I spoiled him when he was over in Australia. I think everybody spoiled him when he was over there. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful service. But that waiata by Pania Papa is called E Minaka Ana. And I just want to translate that for you. And it's desire, and this is the translation that I've received. Hope it's tika and hope it's puno. But it says, let us be staunch in speaking Māori. I desire that my talk be like that of a leader, my noble language, my precious inheritance. Astound me with your maturity by the spirit you show when speaking Māori. Let us be staunch in speaking Māori. And I think that that's actually quite a beautiful meaning. And it's probably, now this is, sort of like a transliterated meaning. And I would guess if you were a fluent speaker in te reo, it'd be more poetic than that. But for those of us that are on our reo journey, including myself, my son just finished his reo noho for the year, the last one for the year. So we're all on our reo journey. I just want people to understand that it's a dying language, and we have to really treasure the reo. And I know there have been some concerns about the reo being thrusted down people's throats, but when your language is close to extinction, you will get into that space where you want to try and preserve it. So I'm just sharing with people, and I've shared in the past that my father and my grandmother were punished for speaking their reo. Dad was a native speaker. He was brought up by my great grandmother, his grandmother, Koe Moi, and she comes from Tūwharetoa. And she comes off the Rangatira line, the Te Huhu line. And so Dad was a native speaker and only spoke Te Reo Māori for the first 7 years of his life. And then his father passed away via a motorcar accident. And I didn't even know the cars went that fast at that time, but he did. He was hit by a car, and my father witnessed his papa die. And so him and his mother moved from around Opanaki, from Pihama, into New Plymouth, and moved into town. And when he moved into town, he wasn't allowed to speak the reo. So he was punished, and that was his first language for 7 years. And my grandmother was also punished for speaking the reo. So for those that are really protective of the reo, I mihi out to you, and that this song really is about respecting, I guess, the history of our reo. There is only one te reo in the whole world, and we need to honour that. So, just by me sharing, I hope that people will respect and honour that. And I just think that that's a beautiful waiata to share with you tonight. Anyway, so that's that. I'm also going to play I haven't done a live for a while, and I have been flat tack, and I should try and do more lives. But anyway, busy campaigning is a lot of mahi, and then preparing for this wedding too, getting over. Like, we didn't even have our passports. Our passports expired, during lockdown, and we thought, oh well, no one's traveling anywhere, waste of time. renewing our passports, and then all of a sudden my daughter said, we're going to get married in like 5 weeks. I was like, oh crikey, I need to get our passports. We haven't got our passports. But no, we had plenty of time up our sleeves for the passport, so that's cool. What I want to share, I'm going to share, and hopefully my steep StreamYard won't, muck around on me and do what it does sometimes. But I wanted to share what Mike King said, and some of you may have seen it. And then I want to share some other bits and pieces with you about what's been happening, especially within the campaign, and some exciting stuff that happened to our party today. So I want to share some really good news with you. So I am going to try and see if I can share Mike King's kōrero. Just waiting for it to come up, and hopefully here it comes. Yep, here it comes. So I'm going to share this with you, because it's really it is really difficult to when you're trying to cross Facebook, because we know that there are major issues there with censorship, and censorship is real. But anyway, I wanna play this clip from Mike, because I think it's really important, right? Right, and just gonna extend this. Okay. Here we go, whānau. And then I'll have a kōrero to you about our campaign and the good news that we have in regards to that campaign. Right, here we go.
Friday, the entire total.
No,
just
of it. Today. Yes. $60. Wow.
How does that sit with you? $3 million. Amazing.
It's mind blowing.
What did you, in your wildest of hopes, what would the team at I Am Hope and Gabriel have hoped for? You said
Wild Strings too.
Yeah.
Now, Wild Strings expect best before in one day was 990,000.
Wow.
And this is just the biggest one day total, I think, of just about any charity for one. Yeah, incredible.
Okay, whānau. I'm just trying to see what's happening with it. It is playing up, which is a real. Oh, here it is. Here it is. It's come back on again.
Today, there's still money coming, but just to today, and it's only a guesstimate. 3,000,000.
Holy shit.
73,864. Yeah. Oh.
How good is that? It's the wildest of I am hope and Good Friday have hoped for when you set out
like
for
in our
this.
wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Best before this.
Expect best before in one day
Yeah.
was 990,000.
Wow.
And this is just the biggest one day total, I think, of just about any charity for one day, a one day
Wow.
event. So yeah, incredibly blessed and incredibly appreciative of the rock listeners. And you know, I'll be 100% honest. There is no way in hell we would have got there without you guys. There's just no way. There was no momentum. There was, you know, I didn't feel like anything was happening, and you know, and then we came in here and your guys started it all. So, but I was lucky enough to get a meeting with Andrew Little and his bulldog Willie Jackson.
So
Andrew
Little, health
yeah.
minister.
This was the scariest thing that they said. Yeah, sure, lots of people are suiciding, but it's politics. You've got to play the game. So,
that's just
well, my message to the Labour Party, Mr. Little and Mr. Jackson, is kids dying is not a game. You cannot play games with kids' lives. So you need to get over yourself. You need to put the personalities to one side, and you need to focus on what is happening.
It just seems so simple that it would be such a the term
winner
vote in an election that even National have been silent on it too, that you would just say it's so clearly huge to New Zealand, this issue. The number that get around it just says, give the fucking $5 million to I Am Hope. Like,
well, imagine if they just went,
simple.
we'll go dollar for dollar with the New Zealand public.
Or dollar for dollar.
For dollar. I mean,
it just seems so simple. A lot of our listeners really love you, mate. Love the whole organisation. Love the amount of work and commitment you put into it, right? Does it give you, ironically, with the name being I Am Hope, does hope come back into you a bit more now after how these last 3 weeks have gone?
100%. Again, you know,
you see it in your
I'm
face.
a broken record, but none of this possible without The Rock.
Yeah.
None of it is possible. Honestly, we wouldn't have got to $1 million with The Rock listeners coming on board. They are just,
they care about you though as much.
but they motivate New Zealand.
like over 3 mil and cutting fast food.
Right. Wasn't that awesome? Eh? $3 million in one day. Gumboot Friday. But here's the part that I took out of that little clip, and it was a little clip, is that he called Andrew Little, his bulldog, which is Willie Jackson, how they had a meeting. And I guess the concern, is that they said, yes, sure, that there's going to be lots of people that are suiciding, but it's politics. You know, it's about playing the game, playing the politics game. And like he said, like Mike King said, is kids are dying. It's not a game. So there's, you know, that shows the value that the Labour Party put on life itself. There is no value to life. And I'm sure Willie Jackson has whānau that he is aware of that have committed suicide. I have. My brother and my brother's son committed suicide. My husband's sister's son committed suicide. So we know that pain. We know that mamai. And, you know, things have got worse, especially with the pandemic. They have not got better. This government is sending us over the cliff. Mental health is a major, major issue. And, you know, I just, you know, I don't listen to The Rock, but, you know, when that clip of Mike King getting really emotional went viral, you know, it woke us all up. You know, he was angry, he was burnt out, he was exhausted. His wife was responding to what was happening. I mean, his mental well-being was being affected, and all Labour can do is play fucking politics. Sorry for swearing, But that's how serious it is, right? So I just wanted to play that clip, right? I just wanted to play that clip, uh, um, just so that you get it. You get it that there's no aroha there. That Labor is just playing politics. They pay lip service to all the real issues. Now, thank you all for coming on. This is really awesome. Shirley, Hene, Howells, Danielle. I'm going to come back to your comment, Danielle, because I actually want to speak to that comment. So I read your comment when that clip was playing. And I'll put your comment up. New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party. So I'm cross-posting onto our party. And like I said, I've got some really good news I want to share with you shortly. But I just want to acknowledge those that have come on to my lives. There's quite a few of you on already. So Quinton, thank you. Crystal, Jess, Shane, William, who else? Pete, Stacy, you fellas rock. Now, I am going to put up Danielle's comment, right? So I played the Waiata Eminaka Ana, and it was about speaking Te Reo Māori and staying staunch to that. And then I shared historical journey. And I'd like to, I'd like to hear your fellas' comments about Danielle's comment, because I am going to respond to it. And so, Danielle, this is your comment. You said, we need to get past the past. A Māori child born today doesn't have issues with an English child born today. They are taught to hate because of grievances of the past. That's not correct, Danielle. Danielle Marie Kirk Locke. You come from a space of ignorance. You don't come from a space of being informed. And I did share with you my father and my grandmother's journey, and the fact that I did not have the reo, which is a trauma thing. No one can tell me, not you or anyone can tell me who I am and what is important to me, right? If you want to do that, you go and create your own page, your own Facebook page, and you go and promote what you believe is tika and pono. I'm talking about a dying language. I'm not talking about hate. I'm talking about respecting other people's diversity. The only hate that I hear is actually coming from your comments. And so I want to hold you accountable for what you've written right there. Okay? Because it's offensive. It's offensive. I am sharing my real journey, and I am sharing a beautiful waiata written by Pania Papa, who is one of our real experts, like one of the experts, and we don't have many in Te Reo Māori. And so when you takahi on humana, you takahi on all of us. Takahi means you stomp, and I wouldn't do that to you. And don't you dare do that to me, because I'm just calling you out right now. Okay? So I'm going to leave that at there, but I'll be quite keen to hear what other people's comments are about Danielle. I mean, you might actually agree with her. And if you do, then you're coming from a space of ignorance, not from an empowering space, because it's about empowering me and my children and my grandchildren to grab a language that is dying. And that is something that is my birthright, okay? That was ripped away from my ancestors, and we're desperately trying to hold on to it. So this is not divisive. This is about respecting others' diversity, respecting other ethnic backgrounds. And, my daughter just married a beautiful Samoan man. We had the Samoan culture shared with us at the wedding that I've just come back from, and it was absolutely stunning and so much respect. So much. We had te reo spoken at the wedding, and we had Samoan spoken at the wedding, and we had English, and it was done with lots of aroha, love, and lots of respect. Now, Danielle, you need to get to that place. Okay, you need to get to that place, and if you're competent at English, then share that. Share that. You might have Māori whānau that aren't as good in their English as maybe they are in te reo, or maybe they don't have either language. So rather than knocking people, go out and share the love is all I'm saying. So yeah, it was a beautiful experience, absolutely stunning experience of two different cultures coming together as one through this marriage, through this union. So thank you all whānau for listening to that little bit of a kōrero. Oh, Anna, Kevin, heaps of views have come on. Rochelle, Mary, awesome. So the other thing I want to share with you now is the massive. I won't explain it. I'll just share it to you, and then hopefully Facebook won't play up on me. So thank you, and you are making comments to what I've brought up, and I don't want us to be hard on Danielle. She has a perspective, and I absolutely believe in freedom of speech, because without freedom of speech, whānau, we do not have a democracy. So I might not agree with it, and I've told her I felt offended by that, and that's okay. That's okay. And she may still be staunch on what she believes in, and that's okay, because that is what freedom of speech is all about. You do not have to agree with people, but those people have, or we all have, the right to our own whakaaro, to our own thoughts, to our own minds, and we have the right to share that. Remember, if we knock freedom of speech, we're actually knocking our democracy. So, kia tūpato. Okay, so kia ora, Dara. So she said she responded to that comment without knowing what it was in context to, as I had just jumped into the live. Oh, okay. Kei te pai. I mean, we got to show Danielle some aroha. Kia ora, Coco. She says some people responsible for our language loss are still walking around today, still in the same mentality, and still spreading hatred and denial of the facts. Reality check, Danielle. Kia ora for your comment as well, Coco. Okay, now I'm going to share this next clip. Hang on. A couple of things up that I want to share with you too. So it just takes a little while for things to load up, even though I've got them ready. Okay. And you may have seen it on my page too. Okay, my live's coming up. So it's not going to come up, whānau, even though I had it ready. Oh, hang on. Yeah, here it is. Oh, it might. Here we go. I'll see if I can do this. Thank you for your patience, eh? Technology is not my forte, but I try my best, and sometimes beyond my control. But I do want to share this with you. So Okay. Ooh, it's not coming up. Hang on. No. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Now.
Internationally, so those are the
First, that the anti-mandate movement hasn't actually disappeared.
Okay, Fano, I'm going to play that again because it did muck around on us. So I'll see if it'll play straight through without cutting out on us. See how we go.
internationally, so those are the leaders. But what about the parties?
Well, again, National's probably going to be pretty happy here. They're comfortably in the lead in overall engagement. And relatively shockingly, Labour's actually dropped down to third place overall in overall engagement. First time that's happened in my memory. That leaves the Outdoor and Freedoms Party to slip into that second spot. Now, that really does go to show that that anger that motivated the anti-mandate movement hasn't actually disappeared.
Okay, so I'll stop that. So I don't know. So I was looking on the actual clip, so I don't know if it came up or if you heard. But sorry, I'm just reading some of your comments. What come up is that in social media we are the second on I think about 10 parties, or I think it was 10 was the amount. Well, anyway, we're second. We're second in the running in our social media. So the New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party, we're doing really, really well in regards to our social media. So even though, here's what's really weird about this campaign, and I've been around for a long time, and I've just come straight out of a local government campaign. We had debates nearly every night, right? And we have not had, we had one which was a quiz night on Thursday, and that's the day that my daughter got married, so I couldn't be a part of that. And that's okay. That's okay. I don't know how wide these people come up from Wellington, so I don't know how wide that went, but I think it was online. So it wasn't a public debate per se. I think people did attend. Normally what happens too is people come in and who support the candidates, and they attend. What we saw in local government is that it was the public attending. And the issues in Hamilton West are for real. The issues are major issues, and we have had some parties steal our policies, and that's okay, because we've already promoted what we're standing for, right? Our 9 points. And you receive pamphlets from other candidates, and you go, we've already promoted that policy and that policy and that policy. So that's a compliment to New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party, and the fact that we've been using social media to get out our kōrero, right, and our principles and our values that we stand for. And just in case you've forgotten, the 9 reasons to vote for me is entrenching our New Zealand Bill of Rights into supreme law, so that no other government can takahi or stomp on our Bill of Rights. And within that, we want to have the discussion of also entrenching our human rights and entrenching the principles, or te tiriti or waitangi. And again, this is about a journey, okay? And this is about informing and educating, because te tiriti or waitangi is our founding document, and there is a lot of case law case law that's been developed over generations, actually, about the principles of te tiriti or waitangi. We have two documents. One is the English version, which my tupuna signed, and one is the Māori version, which the whole motu, bar a number of iwi who didn't sign, and Taranaki was one of them. So again, on my Tainui side, my tupuna signed the English version. On my Taranaki side, my tupuna didn't sign te tiriti, but we were brought in under te tiriti because there were about 517 chiefs from around the motu, from around the country, who did sign. And so there has been an education into our history, and actually the settlements process, part of the settlements process is sharing that history, and not all of it, the majority of that history is actually a dark history. So we can't just take a snippet of where we're at now and move forward from today. We can't do that, because there's a whole lot of history that has to be acknowledged, and there are some serious issues that have happened, right? And so what we saw on in March with the occupation was a repeat of that history. And, obviously we have not learnt from history if there's a repeat. This time it was my tupuna, because I'm Māori Scottish. I do have English whakapapa as well, and I acknowledge that. That makes up who I am. But I am predominantly Māori. I have predominantly Māori toto or Māori blood. And so there's a huge history there. And because history was never taught in schools, and they've brought history in now, there are generations who do not know or understand and speak from a space of not knowing and a space of fear. And I hope that my role as the co-leader of New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party is to break down those barriers and make it a safe place for us to have that conversation. And I will call out racism, because I do not tolerate racism at all. And I will call out racism if it's implied or if it is explicit. And we have policies and legislation and a lot of implied racism within our institutes, right? And people call that institutional racism. Well, it's not institutional, because an institution is a thing, right? It's the people within those institutions that create policy and create law, create the racism. So let's go on this journey. Let's hold each other accountable, and let us grow from this. Let us mature from this. And if you remember the meaning, the translation of Eminaka Ana, it says in the last verse, it says, astound me with your maturity by the spirit you show when speaking Māori. And that includes pronunciation. Like, for example, I'll just use my maiden name, which is Pokere, spelled Pokere, but it sounds like pork, like the pig, the pork of a pig, the meat. So Pokere, and that's how you pronounce my name. I was, when I was at primary school at the age of 5, my name was pronounced Pokere, and I wouldn't acknowledge, because you had to acknowledge your name if you were in assembly or not. And I refused to acknowledge my name because they didn't pronounce it right. And I was only 5 years old. And my teacher came up and said, Donna, they're calling your name. And I said, that's not my name. My name is Donna Pokere. So that was a young 5-year-old, and I think back to that time and think, wow, how does a 5-year-old know to do something like that? But anyway, but that's how important somebody's name is, and even I, when I pronounce people's name, and I apologize, and I say to people, if I've got your name wrong, I really apologize for that. If there's foreign names that I cannot pronounce. So, and I do, because your name is so important. Okay, sort of gone off the track a little bit, but so number one is entrenching the New Zealand Bill of Rights into supreme law, and including our human rights and our principles from Te Tiriti or Waitangi, which is our current unwritten constitutional makeup, including the Constitution Act 1986. And one day, one life, maybe after this campaign, after this by-election, I want to talk about the New Zealand Constitution Act, because one, they entrenched it, the government entrenched the act, and two, is there irregularities that have come out of that act? Just putting that out there on the side for now. But that is our unwritten constitution, and we need to have a conversation about entrenching our unwritten constitution into written constitutional law. And I think it's really important, because if you don't have a written constitution, you hear that saying, absolute power absolutely corrupts. Well, there's nothing holding back those parties that have absolute majority, like the Labour Party has. And you've seen how they've gone tyrannical on us. Sounds like a dinosaur. But how they've gone tyrannical on us. We don't have an upper house. We don't have a lower house that puts the brakes on that. We don't have a written constitution. And they have abused their power. And they've forgotten that they serve us, not the other way around. So that is number one. One of the reasons to vote for me. The other reason is the housing revolution. Homes are not motels, and we've spent, $800 million in the last 2 years just to house whānau in motels. So there are some moteliers, owners of motels, that have made a shitload of money off the taxpayer. Thank you very much, and laughing all the way to the bank. And that revolution is really the Michael Savage housing revolution. History has shown that it works. So the state needs to take over the housing program, take it out of the market. And actually, Labor, you need to put your money where your mouth is, and you need to look back at your tupuna, your ancestor, the first Prime Minister of the Labor Party, and the reasons why Labor had a strong following. And it shows how far away you've gone from your grassroots. Now, we talk about the left, the left and right wing of the same vulture, or the same bird, and I always say the left or right cheek of the same nono. And I've shared what that word means. I'm not going to share it again. You go and do some research. So that's that one. That's the housing revolution. Localism, not corporatism, and that speaks for itself. I mean, Three Waters is about centralizing power, right? Whether it's mainstream or whether it's Te Ao Māori. That's about centralising power, and we've got to decentralise the power, because you centralise it in Wellington and you centralise it in these four regional entities, then it's easier to control the masses, basically, and you take the control away from the community, you take the control away from your local government. We need to clip the wings of central government and empower our local government more. So that's where that is. We need to support local businesses. We need to support local communities. We need to bring back. You remember, I grew up with a local constable who knew all the whānau, who knew all the kids on the street. We need to bring our local community cop back to our communities. And I've experienced it firsthand, whānau. A rogue cop that wants to assault a queer, and I've got mamai shoulder to prove that. But we just need to bring back those community everything, really, and get rid of our corporations. They are laughing all the way to the bank. The banks are making billions of dollars out of us. We are feeling the pinch in our pockets. There is a what they call a living crisis. Well, it's worse than a living crisis. I don't think the term living crisis actually explains what's happening. The poor are now the destitute, and we now have the middle income poor. And you get rid of middle income, then you've got the haves and the have-nots. And again, the haves will control the have-nots, right? So it's so important to our democracy that we do not create the poor middle class. The poor middle class is actually the key, including our Bill of Rights and human rights, the key to a free society. So our mum and dad businesses are the key to a free society. Our farms are a key to a free society. Okay, so we've got to protect our farmers, protect our communities, and protect each other and respect each other. Okay, the obvious one is protecting the environment for future generations, and I can do a whole live on that. But at the end of the day, Papatua Nuku is dying. She's dying. She's on life support, and that's the end of humanity if we don't sort that out. And I'm not talking about climate change. I'm talking about toxins, poisons, pollution. I'm talking about we ourselves as individuals have to change the way that we shop, the way like we've got recycling. I mean, recycling's only just started. We need to bring our forests back. So David Attenborough, what was the name of his documentary again? Can you remember? Oh, I'll put it up on the comments when I remember it. Was seen it on Netflix, and he talks about his life doing all these documentaries on the wild. And he said the wild is no longer there, but we need to bring our forests, our native forests back. We've got palm oil trees, we've got pine trees, and they do not create an ecosystem. They are actually creating green deserts. So we've got to bring our and there are countries doing a lot in the recycling space, in the sustainable space, and in the forestry reforestation is what it's called. So it's not about planting billions of pines. It's about planting or allowing our forests to naturally regenerate itself. So that's important. Keeping local assets in local hands. That's three waters. That's our three waters. They start with three waters. Oh, well, some people are calling it five waters now. Start with three waters. Where does it end? Auckland, when I was working up there last, which was several years ago, they had $28 billion worth of assets, right? That was built up over generations of taxpayers' money. Now, when I was in local government, and I was just looking at my local government pamphlet, over 2 years, we have had a rates increase of 17.8%, right? 17.8% rate increase. Now, those rates over time is what we paid for those assets that we have, including the infrastructure of our three waters, which is storm, drinking, and wastewater, right? And so those rates pay for that. And this government has come along and wants to steal it. So just remember that when you're feeling the pinch, when you have to pay your rates, that they can easily, you build up your assets, they can easily, because I've shown it, come in and steal that asset, okay? And they'll use fear as justification for doing so, because if you remember, this all come about in Havelock North over toxic pollution that seeped into the waterways, and people did die. Okay, people did die and people did get very sick, but that's their justification for stealing these assets and saying it's going to cost billions of dollars, because they did them. You know, the governments love modeling. Love modeling. I mean, the pandemic was based on someone's modeling perspective. It's like playing fairy godmother and trying to predict the future, because that's what modeling is. It's not real. You can put all sorts of different scenarios into. I mean, it was first introduced when I started working at the regional council. It was just coming in, and I remember looking at it and thinking, gee, you can put any scenario in there and it'll create a different model, right? So, I mean, that's simplistic. That's simplistic, but the actual modeling program isn't that simplistic. But it's like, you twink it here, twink it there, twink it here, and it'll bring out a whole different modeling outcome. And that's what governments are relying on. That's what the World Health Organization relies on, is modeling. And I just think it's playing fairy godmother and trying to predict the future. But anyway, that's just my perspective. I'm not your one source of truth. Just saying, go and do your own research. The other one is defending our medical and data sovereignty. This is so important. And again, it's about protecting, our democracy and our freedom of rights. Because if you don't have freedoms and you don't have rights, you do not have a democracy. You are not free. And you enslave your children and you enslave your mokopuna forevermore. Okay? That's how serious it is, folks. Just saying. Kia ora, Janine. Kia ora, Bev. Kia ora, Diane. Kia ora, Jess. Thank you for tuning in. So, defending our medical and data sovereignty is so important. Not leaving, when governments get their mitts on our data, and then they contract out certain public services, then that data is captured by a third organization, right? And so our data is shifted around, and they can use and abuse our data, right? And people say, well, I don't care if they use our data. Well, you need to, because with that data will come, and we're already seeing bills and legislation being pushed through. And we don't even want to go there. But anyway, every government has pushed through legislation under urgency, and you have to question whether, when pushing legislation under urgency, that too erodes our democracy, right? National was really good at it, and Labor's become experts at it. So we need to hold these establishment parties accountable for pushing through legislation under urgency, because that undermines the democratic process. And whilst we're sleeping, these shady legislations that will have huge impacts on us get snuck through while we're sleeping, basically. Defending our medical and data sovereignty, giving us the right, as our Bill of Rights states, to say no to an experimental procedure, right? And to be able to use alternative, which me and my whānau swear by, using alternative. We still work with doctors as well, and we use a balancing job there. But that's our choice. And what I'm saying, we need to be able to have that choice, and we need to defend our data sovereignty, because they will enslave us, and they will do it through ID, using our identity as a way of enslaving us, and using digital currency as a way of enslaving us. And if they can control us through a keyboard, they can switch us off as fast as they can switch us on, right? And so if Donna Pokere-Phillips becomes a little hoha to the government, they can switch me on or switch me off. By switching me off, that will force me to toe the party line, basically, and it's whatever whoever they are in control, and it's not necessarily the government as well. Like I say, we have big tech, big pharma, and big states all in cahoots with one another, and they're all out to control us. Okay. So that's that one, protecting our food and fuel sovereignty. Well, gosh, he who controls the food controls the world. He who controls the water controls the world, right? And our fuel security, everybody's moaning because, we've got a diesel waka, and our diesel is dearer than petrol, right? And we still got our road users on top. We go on about the potholes, but come on, people, wake up. Marsden Point is a strategic asset that was given away to the big oil companies. So we're throwing big oil companies in there, as well as big tech, big pharma, big states. You give a strategic asset away like that, and the reason why everything's going up is because there is not enough fuel out there. The reason why we're getting rebates, and my daughter just bought her a hybrid, because she had two vehicles, one's a diesel and one's a petrol, and they both were too dear. So she traded one in to get a hybrid because it's about saving money, right? But that's exactly what the government wants you to do, because there's not enough fuel and we're running out. Why? Because we've shut down, not we, the government, by transferring that strategic asset, and now bitumen production has shut down. Fuel production has shut down. We're bringing into the country, we were one of the top refineries in the world. We're bringing into the country nasty fuel that we still have to refine, that's costing us 3 times as much. So that's why fuel's going out the roof. And it's like, come on, people. The media is not going to tell you that. You got to listen to people like myself, and you got to go in to dig in at Marsden Point. And I've put all of that up on my page, and it's, you're still not feeling it. You're still not getting it. You still don't understand it. Well, you need to wake up, because you're responsible for the way and why and how we are being treated now, because you fell asleep at the wheel and you're still asleep while we're ready to go over the cliff. And some of us have already gone over the cliff, and fuel, we're going over the cliff. So if you don't wake up, then you are putting the future of your children and your mokopuna at serious danger. And, I don't mind being one of those people that get attacked now, right? Get attacked now, trying to warn you all. I don't care. I've got big shoulders, and, I'm too long and old in the tooth to care about what people think about me. I do care about our future. I do care about our survival, and I do care about your children, my children, your grandchildren, and my grandchildren. And that's why I'm willing to put my neck out there for it to be a target. It's not easy being a politician, as Tama and his whānau, Tama Pōtaka, the national candidate, as they are experiencing. It's not easy putting your head out there, your neck out there. See, I'm putting my face out there. I'm putting my ancestral name out there, which is Pokere, and my family name out there, which is Phillips. I'm putting everything out there. I've been a target of vitriol. I've been a target of hate. I've been a target of the media, and I've been a target of political parties. But too much has happened in the last 2.9 or 2.10 months, 2.2 2 years, 10 months. Too much has happened. And my eyes are wide open. And I've lost one of the dearest people in my life, my father. So nothing can hurt me as much as that has. It's the way he died. It's the way he was treated. That is trauma that I will carry. I will learn to live with it and fighting, because that's what we're doing. We're in a war. We may not have bombs or planes or guns being fired at us, but mark my words, we are in a war against big state, against big tech, big pharma, big fuel companies. We're in a war against corporation, the elite, the oligarchs. We are in the fight for our lives. And I don't want to be the person to say, when I'm 6 feet under and look down on you and say, I tried to warn you all. But there's enough information out there. Like I say, I'm not your one source of truth. Go out and do your own research. Go out and please do your own research. I beg you to do your own research. Okay? Now, where am I? Gosh, I'm only up to number 7, and there's still heaps of you on my life. Oh, I appreciate that, and heaps of you making comments. Thank you very much. You're awesome. Haki, Anna, Alison. Okay, putting New Zealanders first. Absolutely, whānau first. We have to. Whānau first. Whānau first, community first, New Zealanders first. We do that, we will go a long way. And let's it's not even about kicking the corporations out of our lives, because there's some things that Kmart, I have been there myself. We do use them, but it's all of us. We have to make a mind shift, right? The way we treat and respect Papatūānuku, our whenua, the land, the environment. Also, we have to make so many mind shifts, and it's shifting your values, and it's not taking things for granted, and it's showing respect for each other, to each other, for our differences. Sounds like my mokos are coming in. Okay, so putting New Zealanders first and holding the government accountable. That's a big one. So holding the government accountable is about just about everything that I spoke about, actually. I mean, if we go back to what Mike King said, and I'll just sort of sign it off here because I think my mokopuna are going to come in soon. When Andrew Little and his bulldog Willie Jackson said, sure, lots of people are going to they're going to die of suicide, right? But they said that's politics. And Mike said, kids dying is not a game. And so, I just admire Mike King. I admire him for his vulnerability, his realness, his humanity. He shows a lot more humanity than any of these politicians I've seen in Wellington, any of them, actually. So, yeah, I think I'll just end it on that. Yeah. And the fact that he got $3 million in one day. I'm quite curious to know how much Gumbo Friday has brought in for their organisation. Sounds like millions of dollars, actually. Anyway, okay, whānau. I think that's about me tonight. I'm going to sign off. Going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to go have a cup of tea now with my husband, and we'll catch up again soon. Kia pai tō pō. Have a good night, and we will catch up soon. Ka kite anō.